John. ACIL. And ACIL and Watercare have verbal presentations, so thank you. Oh, sorry.
Good afternoon, Mr Chair and committee members. For those who don't know, I'd like to introduce one of my board members on my right, Inarangi Raumati, who's here in place of my chair, Keith Taylor, who unfortunately wasn't able to meet us. So I'm taking that our quarterly report is read. I'll dispense with any presentation and use the time that we have available to answer any questions that the committee might have on our Q3 performance. And I think the one thing that we consistently get asked, or one thing that seems of most interest to people, is are we going to meet our dividend target? And the answer to that this year is I'm sure that we will.
Yeah, that's the main question.
Yes, sure.
Just to help with my understanding, you've had a higher than planned POAL dividend this year, and you're saying the bulk of this increase is due to subvention payments received from Watercare. For the laypersons around the room, can you please explain that?
Certainly. We budget on the basis of paying normal rates of company tax for the ports, which is 28%. Watercare is a loss-making organisation, and we have an agreement with them to effectively purchase their tax losses. We can't bank that because it relies on Watercare making the loss, and it also relies on council not utilising that loss in the first instance. So as the year goes through, we can see whether we have the ability to purchase those, in effect, tax credits from Watercare.
So it may be commercially sensitive, but you said purchase. Are you able to tell us what the value of that is to you?
I can tell you that it's the bulk of that difference, and it comes...
The difference between 39 million and 53 million?
Yes.
Okay, that's quite substantial.
Mm-hmm.
And an asset to Watercare too, no doubt. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to have to apologise for making you wait all that time, and there are no further questions.
Oh, he's doing well.
I'm looking around and I really apologise for having you wait, and there was only one question.
Like I can ask another
Right.
one. Since you sounded so sad about it, Mr Chairman. Obviously the dividend from AIAL and the increase in value of the capital of AIAL makes it a pretty good investment. What is the anticipated dividend for the future, given that the airport is looking at major capital investment, and what would be the impact on it if AIAL was to spend some of that money actually contributing to the cost of the transport services in the precinct?
I can't answer on behalf
It's a totally neutral question, you'll understand.
I can't answer on behalf of
Could be a good investment.
AIAL. We ensure that we don't obtain any information that's not in the public realm regarding AIAL. It would make not only ASIL but the whole council insiders as far as the NZX is concerned. So we take we're very careful not to ask them for future projections other than what's in the public domain. So whether they maintain their current dividend levels, whether they decrease it, whether they plan to raise equity, these are issues that we have no interest in.
So we do know in the public realm that there will be a second runway being built, and that will be a particularly expensive piece of infrastructure. You don't have any sense of what the cost of that construction might mean for dividend streams for the future?
I believe through analyst reports that the that the airport has indicated the likely costs of those, and I suspect, and I can't recall, so I don't want this on record, that they would, in those analyst briefings, have indicated how they intend to fund that capex.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Chair, if I may add to John's response. We have the opportunity to arrange, which we will if you wish us to do so as part of the LTP workshops, a session without ACIL staff or council staff for the reasons that John has just well articulated, session with the UBS analyst who covers Auckland International Airport, so you can have independent information that goes to your point, Mayor Goff, without conflicting any of us. We will arrange that for you as part of the LTP preparation.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you. And avoid a problem for John.
Thank you.
Councillor Levy.
Thank you, and I mean thank you for the 85.9 million dividend. I think that equates to more than a 6% rates increase, so that is real alternative funding, essentially from the world market. And in terms of the future investment, capital investment at Auckland International Airport Limited, that is what businesses do to stay in the market, to stay competitive, to enhance their long-term profit. We're not a short-term owner, we're a long-term owner, and these investments are valued by the people of Auckland for very good reasons. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Cooper. Yes?
Thank you. It's just about the AFSL rebuild. Been holding over the insurance money for the damaged building by fire for quite some time, years now, I think. Getting into a couple of years. So it says the decision's dependent on a workshop. When are we having that workshop? I mean, you might not know the answer, but
Yes, my understanding is that it's scheduled to occur, not driven by us, but driven by the Auckland Investment Office sometime in the next few months. So we
need to know that before the annual plan, but I don't know whether, at least the LTP. Okay.
So the money is held by AFSL pending a rebuild and pending some longer term decisions as to what we wanted, what should be done with the AFSL site in Henderson.
Thank you.
Again, if I may, through the chair.
Just on that, I think in the last Planning Committee or Finance and Performance Committee, that site is earmarked for future development in the Henderson rebuild or Henderson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Cooper, the workshop that John references, we are trying to get that into the schedules, obviously very heavily committed schedules before the annual plan adoption.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ravine and Catherine. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present on the Q3 results. Firstly, apologies from Margaret Devlin. Unfortunately, she was unable to attend today, so I'm deputising in her place. And as ACIL did, we don't plan to do a presentation, but open it up for questions. But Ravine will do a brief little talk about what's happening in relation to the Tasman tempest, just so that you've got an update.
Thank you, Catherine. So, yeah, as you're aware, we had a situation after the rain where we had to ask Aucklanders to save or reduce their water demand by 20 litres a day. And then on April 3rd, we removed that requirement. And that was because we went into the winter months and demand naturally goes down. So in the interim period, the sediment level in the lakes have gone down. So the normal sediment measured in NTUs coming into the treatment plant at Ardmore is around 3. During the height of the storm, it was in hundreds, 300 to 3,000. At the moment, the sediment-laden water coming into Ardmore is around 80 NTU. So it is still higher than what is normal. The plant is not being able to be operated on automatic, so it is manned 24 hours a day. We are looking at putting additional treatment capability to build the resilience, and we should have that all in place by December, January. But as we go into the higher demand in November, we'll be able to cope. So at the moment, Ardmore is able to produce 280 megalitres a day. Its normal capacity is 330 megalitres a day. So Ardmore is doing substantially more than what it was doing, 6 weeks ago.
Sorry, was that figure 8 or 80, did you say?
Coming in, 80.
80.
Yes,
So
80.
it's still way
Way
up.
above, yes.
Yeah. And what is the rate at which, sorry, through you, Mr Chair, what is the rate at which that's diminishing?
Very slow. So it was around 100 immediately after the rain stopped.
Yeah,
So it's very slow.
thank you.
Yes, certainly the photos on page 178 and 181 are pretty alarming. Those councillors who haven't looked at the back of the report.
Yes, they are.
So we have Councillor Newman.
Thank you, Mr Chair, and this is the only time I'm going to be able to reflect this side of decisions that are coming up. But firstly, with respect to 1.1 in the report, the Tasman Tempest, I just want to congratulate you, Ravine, and the board and the organisation on the response to the weather events. It has been unprecedented, but I think the response has been very constructive, so thank you. I want to, with your indulgence, Mr Chair, with respect to 2.1 of the report, set out on page 5 of Watercare's report, I commend the second sentence with respect to the site opposite the current treatment plant that is designated for that purpose. I agree with that. I've checked the designations chapter of the unitary plan. Also, designation enables the use of land for public works or infrastructure. You can confirm that the schedule codifies that Watercare has retained the designations for Manuka Road and for the Huia Road locations, and that although Watercare did have the opportunity to remove the designations in the unitary plan, it didn't do so. Yep. I think that's a good outcome. The third sentence in that section, whilst Watercare identifies that it perceives a conundrum with respect to the continuation of the overlay, can I deduce from that section that probably, although it's a bit challenging, that overlay doesn't necessarily preclude that particular site as an option for future infrastructure at that location?
Absolutely. So we've just completed a consultation with 3 options.
Yep.
One is to build where the existing treatment plant is, because the question always is, why can't you just do it where you are? The second option is to build across the road, which is Manuka Road, the land we own, which is designated. And then we came up with 2 sites in Orotia, which has been the subject of a lot of concern from the local Orotia people. So on Tuesday at the board meeting, the board will get a recommendation and the board will decide as to which option it will adopt. But all options, apart from building where the existing plant is, Manuka Road and the 2 Parker Road options are goers.
Yeah, I mean, can I just say that I absolutely agree that, notwithstanding the overlay, it can be managed in a way that allows for the development of that site. Can I just tease out, if I may, and you might not be able to address this with respect to the continuation of the next paragraph. It does refer to more detailed social, cultural, environmental evaluations, including the impact on options. So has that additional evaluation been particularly helpful in clarifying this matter?
Yes. So if I may, I mean, generally what happens in most organisations, they would do an analysis, choose a site, and then apply for consents.
Yeah.
What we do at Watercare is we choose options, we go and consult on the shortlisted options, before we decide. So we do get the community to have a voice. And so in the consultation process, new information comes through, even though we employ experts. Sometimes the expertise that the locals have outweighs the experts that we engage. So that process does allow us to get a true sense of what the community feel about the options, and they get a voice before we apply. And then when we apply for a resource consent, the chances of getting the consent are higher, because otherwise the process of the disgruntled individuals, I guess, or through the consenting process slows down the consent process.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think ownership plus designation looks pretty good to me.
Councillor Collins.
Me? Oh, thanks, Chair. Just a couple of questions. I begin by congratulating you on your public commitment under your youth pledge to some courses that's going to see some young people come through. Just got a couple of questions. 2.8 is in the report is the employee recruitment and retention. I was just wondering, the university offers women in science programs, and I'm interested to know if you're seeing some of this impact through your organisation and how the diverse workforce is being implemented or thought about at your organisation.
Sure. So traditionally we are an engineering organisation, although we are trying to get more into customer service. But so, for example, the whole water supply treatment facilities for water care are managed by women. So our northern water treatment plant manager is a female, and our southern water treatment plant manager is a female as well. Our water transmission systems are managed by a female engineer as well. So we have an increasing number of female engineers coming through. There's some traditional roles where you will see more male and some more female. So in our field forces where they're physical work, they're mostly male, if not 100% male. In the trades area, especially instrumentation and electrical, there's a growing number of females. So we encourage diversity. It's one of the objectives through the board for management. It's gender diversity, it's diversity of ethnicity, minorities. So at the University of Auckland, we sponsor 2 engineering scholarships. One is for Maori Pacific Islands, one is for anyone else. For the last 2 years, the successful recipients have all been Maori, and we also employ students during summer vacation, about 30 of them. Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to take you through water care, and you'll see the diversity as you walk through.
Yeah, excellent. And just my second question is, under your highlights for the quarter, point 5, a visit from Water Authority Fiji. I'm just wondering, and I know this might not be a particular focus, but I'm wondering what kind of expertise sharing happens between, say, water care and our closest international neighbours in the Pacific.
Okay, so we, a lot. So we work with the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, local government New Zealand. We have a relationship with Fiji through MFET. So our staff prepared the risk management framework for Fiji Water Authority. We trained their staff on risk management. Recently they were here for SCADA. Our staff have helped New Zealand consultants, but through MFET in the Cook Islands. So we're doing a lot of work, but they're mostly through MFET. So our staff time is pro bono, but the cost of flights and accommodation is usually funded by MFET.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Got a trip coming up. Excellent.
Happy to go to Cook's.
Thank you. Right, we have Councillor Holstead, Mayor Goff, and Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that this is probably more an accountability question, but we only have now, prior to the meeting that's going to be held next week. I'm just hoping that in thinking of risk management, that our plan for dealing with whichever site is chosen, that we have a very proactive plan of community engagement and partnering with the elected arm of Auckland Council to assist Watercare with dealing with that.
I take note. So my comms people have been talking to the communications staff, but I'll make sure that especially yourself and Councillor Cooper will speak to you offline.
Appreciate
I
that.
think it's important, thank you.
You might want to involve me in that.
I will do so.
I live in Titirangi and my ward's only a couple of 100 metres away from one of the,
We'll
one
send
of
them
the
to you,
areas.
Ross, shall we?
But I've kept out of it up till now. Meg off.
Yeah, I don't know why people are objecting to living next to a water treatment station, Ravine, as
Absolutely,
you
Mayor
well
Goff.
know.
Absolutely.
You pump 330,000 litres, million litres past our gate. Two questions. One, very specific and simple, I hope. The designation of the Manukau Road site in Titirangi, how long has it been designated for water care supply use?
How long has it been? Or
How long has it been designated?
I think it was designated in the days of the ARC when the RMA came in. But the site has been owned by the IRA, and the intention that it be the future water treatment plant has been there from
So
decades.
how many decades is that?
Oh, I would get it wrong, but decades. I can get you the number.
From Waitemata City days,
City
I
days.
think, at
Really?
least. I looked at I've got a copy of the
So
designation.
that's all pre-89 then, obviously.
yeah.
So nobody would be surprised that that's what you intended its use for.
Yes, I think just very briefly, the challenge was because council became a unitary council, so the Waitakere City Council had a overlay, if I may use the term, that there are trees there and they need to be protected. But the ARC, which gave the designation, because it was a regional council, its plans trumped the local council.
Mm-hmm.
But because Auckland became a unitary
the-
council, the unitary plan made both those the same, which has required us to go in.
Thank you. My main question is the one performance measure that you don't quite reach is the real water loss from the reticulated system. And you're almost at it, but it will kind of astound people to think that you've got a 13.2% real water loss. Now, does that equate to something like 40 million litres?
That equates to, I would say, it's like the Waitakere Lake,
Yeah.
our Waitakere supply, yes.
That's huge. Is that simply because we have an old system? And what can you do to reduce that realistically in economic terms? I know the reason that you won't have done it is because of the economic cost, but that's a huge level of water waste.
Yes. So losses are because of many. It's not just leakage. So leakage is what we keep talking about, and we respond to it because it's quite visible. Our number one issue is with water that is not accounted for. So water that's stolen.
So it could be stolen.
Yeah, of course they are. And from metered or hydrants, a lot of water gets stolen. Where people have got metered connections, but the meter has been lost or buried or wasn't metered. So recently we did a trial at Waiuku by putting smart meters in district metering, and there are 3,000 homes there. We had non-revenue waters of 43% in Waiuku.
Wow.
It's come down to just over 20%, and that reduction is straight the connections that were not metered that we have found. Right? And then there's some leakages. The second issue is that the meters are old, and the plumbing that is going into homes are more water efficient. So all metering devices have got tolerances. So generally, the old meters would read accurately, say, between 6 litres a minute to maybe 9 litres a minute. More and more of the households have water demands that are 3 litres a minute to 7 litres a minute. So the accuracy range of the meters are out. So we have started a meter renewal program. We have 450,000 meters in our system. So we'll have to, we have traditionally been replacing about 6,000 meters a year. We're going to ramp it up to about 20,000 meters, and we have to put a pipeline of skills and resources and people. So it's not a money issue. It's and meters aren't just you going and replacing the meter. There is a huge customer involvement, because customers want to know that their meter has been removed, what the last reading was, what the new reading is, because the meter is the cash register. So that's the second area that we need to do, and we are working on. And then we've got the whole leakage issue and breaks. Water is also used for firefighting, and if you listen to the news, you'll find that there are far more fires being fought. Water is also being used for operational purposes by ourselves when we put systems in use. So when we put new wastewater systems in use and there's no demand, when the houses don't connect, the sewage goes septic. And so we need to keep that flushed. And we're actually flushing that with our water mains, okay? So there's a whole series of things that contribute to the real losses. So we are addressing all of them. The target that we've got, we're not changing the target. The target gets tougher in coming years. So it's one of the ones that we are not meeting, but we are working on it.
Thank you.
Phil. Councillor Wayne Walker.
Sure, just some commendations. First around what you're doing across the demand management space, the climate space, the partnership with Fiji and I would hope other Pacific Island nations where water is absolutely crucial. So I have a question, and it goes in part to a previous presentation by Panuku, where there's an opportunity for a considerable ramp up in housing across New Zealand, of which council via Panuku and other parts could well be a major player, and a very real opportunity for initiating more water demand management, water efficiency, water tanks, for example, like other cities have, Melbourne, Sydney and the like. Is Watercare actively integrating into that process so we can really achieve going forward some state-of-the-art, world-leading initiatives in that area?
I think the answer is we're on a journey, and we're on the very early stages. So as Panuku, the CEO, mentioned, Wynyard Quarter, for example, we're working with Transport, and our projects are also delayed because they're being done by Transport. The opportunities for placemaking is there. And when we look at what has been done elsewhere, you know, Copenhagen, Melbourne, where some policy decisions have to be made, I guess, and we need to put that up to the likes of yourselves and our boards collectively as to whether open spaces could end up being, for example, stormwater detention dams. Currently, we are all protecting our own patch. So people who are responsible for reserves don't want anything else happening on their reserves. While an integrated approach would say reserves are a great place where you can store water when there's a lot of stormwater coming in. But it may damage the field. You know, in terms of homes, if we put integrated storage rainwater tanks that's connected with, say, toilets, flushing of toilets in gardens, and putting pumps, because usually if it's not pumped, it doesn't have the pressure. But with Tesla and Panasonic batteries and solar powers, a lot of the costs are going down. So the opportunities are all about integrating all the different aspects. So one of the strategic initiatives that the board is putting for management is for us to look into smart networks. Excellent. Which is all about being part of the smart city, smart networks. So I would say we're in the early stages of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ravine. Thank you, Catherine. That is the end of the questions, and thank you for being brief and to the point. Yep. Much appreciated. Thank you, councillors. There is lunch down below, and there's Ravine. One more item. Sorry, I didn't take you back.
Move them. We've got to move them.
Ravine and Catherine, if you want lunch, you're welcome to.
There's another item, you go down and eat.
One more item.
We have one more item. Sorry, we have one more item. We need to keep the quorum. So,
Happy to move, Mr. Chair.
You haven't moved and seconded this lot yet.
okay, we're moving that. Seconded by Councillor Simpson. All those in favour?
Aye.
So no one had any questions?
Look at my
No.
amendments.
Right, so we now go into the group results, and, okay. Kevin.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, no presentation. We'll continue that theme. We'll take the report
Happy to move,
as
Mr.
read.
Chair.
What I want you, maybe if Chris